What do Gio Reyna, James Sands, Dante Polvara have in common? They all came through the New York Soccer Club. And that makes this a good place to ask a bigger question. What does it actually mean when a club says it can develop players? Because we hear that word constantly. This club develops, it's everywhere. But real development is not a slogan. It can't be. It's technical, it's cultural, it's got to be very specific. It lives in the small details repeated over time. And eventually, the proof shows up in the players. Today, we're talking about something that every club says it values, but very few can really explain once you get past the branding. What is development? What does it actually mean? What does it look like on the training field? And the feedback, the culture, and the day-to-day life of a serious youth club.
Laurent, you're getting so good at these intros.
I'm trying, man.
Because once you get beyond the logos, the league badges, the broad promises, that's the real question for families. What is your kid actually getting every week? What is the coaching environment? How clear is the path? How consistent is it from team to team? And how much of what a club says about itself actually shows up on the field?
Yeah, today we're privileged to have Christian Gonzalez, the Academy Director for New York Soccer Club. His own path into the game runs from growing up in Westchester, son of a Uruguayan immigrants, playing at Fordham, coaching through the early academy years, and then helping shapes in one of the most competitive soccer regions in the country.
That would be Fordham, not Fordham, but we'll keep going.
And
what makes this conversation interesting is that Christian doesn't talk about development in vague language. He talks about it in very specific terms. Coach education, club methodology, ball roll time, individual feedback, accountability, what a director actually does, and how you try to create consistency across an entire club when every coach, every team, and every family is coming in with different expectations and different dreams.
Yeah, we also get into what makes this region so intense. The competition level in New York and Westchester, the proximity of other clubs, the pressure families feel, the economic reality of running a serious youth club, and the tension between philosophy, access, results, and opportunity.
So this is a conversation about one club, yes, but it's also a much bigger conversation about how parents should think about the environment, how clubs define themselves, and what real development actually sounds like when you strip away the sales pitch.
Yeah, this is very cautiously chasing the game, youth soccer in America. Director Gonzalez, welcome to Chasing the Game. It's an honor to have you. We're very, very excited on this Sunday morning. So before we focus on New York Soccer Club, can you walk us a little bit through your own path of the game, player, coach, academy director, and
Sure.
What part of the journey you think shaped you the most as far as youth development is concerned?
As an immigrant from Uruguay, my past, my family history certainly shaped how I view and, felt passionate about the game early on. The passion that every Uruguayan has for the game was in me. And that fueled my motivation to play the game. So early on, I grew up in New York in Westchester County, and I grew up in their youth program until somebody scouted me and said, hey, they're putting together a really good team in Westchester County. And mind you, this is mid 80s. And they said, they want to put together a select team, FC Westchester. And so I was part of the first ever FC Westchester team. And that team ended up being very successful. The team really established FC Westchester, which a lot of teams came after us and really established the notion of let's say an elite club, right? Before elite clubs were really a thing. And that was founded by Al Pastore, really great guy and a visionary, and certainly established the club that is known to be FC Westchester today. And so I had deep roots in FC Westchester, and I ended up going to Fordham. So I was a local guy, did well at Fordham, was two-time All-Patriot Conference selection. And out of that, I was selected to play for the New York Fever, which was in the USL at the time. And 10 of the 11 starters in that team got drafted in 1996 to be in the MLS, part of the MLS teams of the inaugural year. I unfortunately was not selected. I stopped playing and I started coaching. And at those times, it was just much different club scene, right? The clubs were training twice a week, playing, 2-3 games on the weekend, playing a lot of tournaments. The imbalance was off, right? And when the DA came along, we were selected. So I was part of the first ever FC Westchester DA team. We took them to the finals, did really well. And then this new club popped up out of nowhere. and had Claudio Reyna's name attached to it. Javier Perez, who's now the Atlanta United technical director associated with New York Soccer Club. And one of the biggest carrots associated with it was Inside Soccer. And back in those days, it was the early days of the internet. And Inside Soccer was a really interesting coaching website, resource website that Mark Heffernan founded. And what he did was he went around to all the academies in Europe and South America, like Boca Juniors and River Plate and Ajax and Chelsea. It was just amazing content, right? It was like behind the scenes, like what do academies do in Europe, right? Like it was like the first step of information flow of what are coaches doing on the youth level, like at these league clubs, right? So I was so intrigued by that. So I was part of that. I had a great development here, right? So I was attracted by that. And they recruited me from FC Westchester to come to New York Soccer Club. I did that for 4 or 5 years. And unfortunately, like Inside Soccer was a little bit ahead of its time and wasn't successful commercially. And I had to transition full-time to the New York Soccer Club. And I was coaching a lot, and the boys director left at some point. And, I just kind of made a pitch to them. Hey guys, like I'm ready to be a director. And so they named me boys director at the time. And I've never looked back. I've been with the club about 15 years. And 10 of those years I was academy director now.
Amazing. Yeah. When did your ambition shift from coaching teams to wanting to shape the whole club environment? And was there a trigger in that where you realized that was your calling?
I just thought I was ready, and like the leaders of the club, like I had kind of stepped away for other opportunities. And my ambition was like, I'd put a lot of time into the teams I was doing. And I knew that it would solidify my ability to be full-time in coaching and doing what I love to do. I kind of took a leap saying, you know what, like I can do this. And leading people and making sure that people follow your vision is a huge challenge. And I understood that right away. And so like I was ready for it because the club was founded on very strong principles and philosophy. So it was really easy to say, listen, like, in the hiring process or, whatever we did, this is what we're going to do. And the consistency in our methodology and our ability to deliver our team tactical principles and our game model has always been at the core of what we do from a coaching perspective. So that's always been our guiding light from a philosophical standpoint. It's never wavered. And that's why you see such consistency throughout our teams, from the youngest teams to the oldest teams. We don't always win. Unfortunately, I wish we won more. But from a playing standpoint, from a development standpoint, it's second to none in my view.
Right. So as parents are trying to figure out which clubs, what fits their kids' style, the idea of vision comes into play. How important is the director as far as what the vision of the club is? And also, how do you define the vision of New York Soccer Club?
Yeah, I think it's everything, right? Because when I was explaining, like when I first started coaching, every coach has their own vision of what it should be, how practice should be delivered, right? Like the methodology, the order of how many activities are in each practice. What are we doing in each practice, right? Like, is there a periodization model? Is there somebody holding accountable the coaches to those things? And back in those days, the answer was there was nothing in place, like literally zero, right? So now we have a model where we have a lot in place, and we have a structure where coaches are really required to follow a periodization model, both from a tactical periodization and a physical periodization. But if there's no director, the coach is going to always fall back on, it's human nature, right? Either the path of least resistance or what they feel best about. And when you have that kind of scenario, there's a lot of gaps that are created, right? Because you get coaches that just want to work on possession, or coaches that want to work on the final third, or coaches hate working on, let's say, defending, or there's coaches that want to just work on pressing. Or if you don't have somebody that's kind of really holding people accountable to following a plan, following the methodology, following kind of the main principles of coach behaviors, you're going to have kind of inconsistencies throughout your club.
How difficult is it to manage with the expectations you have if there's coaches who also, who have full-time jobs and then coach for 2-3 hours an evening as well?
Full-time is a relative term, right? We have everybody on a W-2, right? So they're not 1099 contractors. So the mindset changes right there, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. I think the other thing is that we have very few people that work other jobs. they find and manage their schedules pretty well. I would say 30% of our staff is, have full-time jobs and have 2 teams that they coach with us. But the rest of the coaches are pretty much full-time with us. Like 90% of their work is with us, right? So they'll coach 2 teams. And then we have a very vibrant training programs that we offer to the community, our own members, right? And we try to drive revenue through that for our club, and we offer work for our coaches in that process.
How many kids are within the New York Soccer Club community?
We have 650 full-time players, and then, I would say another 500 to 600 players that come through our training programs.
So you can't spell New York Soccer Club without the word New York in it. So that means something. There's something about this region. If you were, let's say, building a club in another area in the United States, would it be the same vision in the same club, or there's something specific where you adjust to this very magical region that we're in?
I would do it the same way. I just think the principles are very sound. The philosophy is super sound. Our game model is very clear. So when you have clarity, you're able to deliver consistency and then refine that from there. And that's what we continue to try to do. We try to refine, we try to make it better. But we have clarity in what we want to do.
What the drivers, when you say refine, is it based on results? Is it based upon development of individual players who move on to whether it's a professional academy or to college? What does that look like?
No, for us, it's always observing what's going on in the game, certain trends. How can we make certain aspects better, right? So I'll give you an example. There's a lot of research done in Europe on different moments in the game. Right. And one of the moments they were talking about, a set piece moment in the throw-in. And the synopsis was most teams end up throwing the ball up the line, lose the ball. And teams that throw it inside or backwards keep the ball longer. They're able to switch play. They're able to generate scoring chances. And I said, let's try a pilot. So I picked 2 or 3 coaches, said, listen, this is what I want you to do. Boom. Sure enough, video evidence after video evidence. We kept the ball. We were scoring goals. We're creating chances. And you see it throughout our teams now. Right. So that's one example of refinement. The first action is a throw inside, and then 2 or 3 passes later, we're attacking the goal, right? So that's just a little example, right? A couple years ago, I noticed that our coaches weren't very clear with the defending tactical scenarios that were very common game after game, defending the space in front, defending the space behind, from wide areas, right? Protecting the goal. And it wasn't clear to all our teams, right? And we just spent time, we refined it, we made it super clear. We updated the talent development plan, and now it's in there, right?
How do you observe training yourself and matches when you can't be at everything? How much video are you watching? How much in person are you watching? And then what does the feedback loop look like with coaches?
We really see ourselves as a development club, right? So part of what we do is we have to develop coaches and get them to a level where we feel really good about what they're doing. Right. So the only way to get coaches to have clarity in what they do is by observations of what they're doing and helping them reflect and helping them just kind of see what they're doing. Right. And just point certain little things out. So you have to do that. Now, I coach 1 team. So I try to dedicate a lot of, this is on purpose, right? I don't coach 2 teams. I wish I was only coaching 0 teams so I could just be on the field and be mostly a coach educator, really. But that's not the case, but I try to dedicate a lot of my time to go sit before my practice. I watch practices. I watch trends. I watch individual coaches, right? We have other directors. We have a management group that's 7, 8 directors strong that we divide and conquer. And we say, listen, we gotta help mentor coaches, right? And part of it is observing, giving feedback, formal feedback, both in matches and in games. I just did this with our U14 coach. I was there watching a game. He obviously coached the game. I said, hey, make your notes. I'm going to make my notes. I'm going to present to you what I saw. You present to me what you saw and see if they match up. And where they don't match up, let's talk. Right. So just an easy way to kind of hone his eye to what I'm seeing.
I love this because it sounds like you have and I can use the word obsession, but there's a technical obsession in you about football and development. And we have encountered many clubs have broad language to try to attract young players. It sounds like there's a resistance within you, how you communicate what youth soccer is. There's a lot more technical language coming from you in general than I see from a lot of clubs. Is that who you are?
I mean, we strive for clarity, right? I can't stress that enough. That's the only way kids learn and develop, by having clear messages. If you speak in an ambiguous way to kids in technical terms, that's what you're going to get. Look, I always say this to my coaches. I say this to players, parents, whoever will listen. Just because you do something a lot doesn't mean you're going to get better at it, right? We all drive a lot. And I know for myself, as I've gotten older, I've gotten worse, right? There's been no personal practice in driving for me, right? Like I started picking up the phone, like all sorts of things, right? It's just same thing in soccer, right? If you have a lot of general practices, you're going to get a lot of general outcomes.
Wow.
So I try to drive home being specific in, like, when I show up, I'm talking to my coach, I ask him, what principle are you working on? What are we working on here? And does everything that you planned feature that principle, like in terms of like getting out what you want to get out and making that clear? Did we push the players on or not? It's not that they're aligned. It's just a prerequisite of working at the club, right? So when I hire people, I say, listen, this is how we do things. And there's a lot of flexibility in what we do, and, choosing the activities and how, your personality and how you communicate and how you behave with, players and things of that nature. But the team tactical principles are, what and how we play, our system of play, that's got to be followed, or else we don't achieve consistency. The other part that, like, I stress all the time, and, our coaches have gotten really good at it, is ball roll time, right? I see coaches talk. When I watch sessions and coaches talk more than like a minute, I start going crazy. If coaches are talking or the ball's not rolling 30 minutes out of every practice, you're losing a practice a week on just the ball not doing it, like the player's not doing anything. So we stress ball roll time all the time. And if a coach is not upholding that, they're spoken to about it. So our sessions are, we try to get as close to like 90 minutes as possible, but that's impossible, right? Because, you'll have water breaks, you have little transitions, but you'll be surprised how much an average coach can lose in each practice of roll time if they don't keep things moving.
Why is 90 minutes the magic number for you for a specific reason?
Not necessarily.
How do you decide?
It'd be nice sometimes,
Yeah.
but there's certainly, in the Northeast, there's always a squeeze on field availability. There's just no way around it.
Clarity and communication are two of the key messages here. Coaches and developing relationships with youth players. Is there an expectation around how they provide feedback? How well do they actually know the kid? And how do you actually ensure that's happening?
Yeah. So I would say about 4 or 5 years ago, we made a conscious decision to change how we give feedback, right? And really stick to correcting versus being critical. That one principle has changed everything for us, right? Because we just stay on task of correcting the player versus allowing our frustration to come through in a player that's making the same mistake over and over again, right? Like, it's easy to get frustrated and be critical or whatever, right? Like, so these are the things that, like, I focused on, and things have changed and we've had better outcomes because of it. So, that one thing has allowed us just to be free to be really good to our players. And I try to stress that to the coaches, right? Like, every team is going to have, right? Like, we have to be good to all those players, right? Now they're all going to be in different journeys, different places in their journey and development. And it's our job to help them along.
But what about from an IDP perspective? Are you doing it twice a year? Parents involved? Does it depend on the age group? What's the philosophy?
Yeah. So yes, in our older age groups, so what we try to do is meet with them before the season starts. And so we try to get ahead of the game, like in the sense like, hey, this is kind of what I've seen in the, first couple of weeks. This is like top 3 things you should focus on. And it's kind of collaborative as well. And we try to do it in writing, and then we support it with video as we go, right? And we have video folders, and we'll add to the videos, and we'll make notes and things of that nature. And the younger age groups, we try to make it age appropriate. It's a written feedback, and then sometimes there's a meeting, and sometimes parents are okay with what they got, and we move forward, right? But I think it's an important process of development, and we're always like thinking about different ways of doing it.
I'm going back to New York. I mean, well, let's all face it here. We're in one of the most competitive youth regions in the country. So we have economic disparity, soccer culture disparity, you name it. Does this make it challenging? Is this part of the magic? What do you think?
competition is at an all-time high. I've heard people say, things are diluted. I just think more kids playing at a higher level and getting better coaching. And yes, like the best players are going to MLS academies, and that's okay, but it's super competitive. Like the games are extremely tight and the margins are very small, and you'll have different styles at play all the time. Right? You'll have direct teams play versus teams that want to play on the ground through the lines. You'll have teams that play low block and play for a set piece and win games. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like the competition level is at all-time high because people want to make playoffs. People want to make flex. People want to, make the 13-14, end of year event. So that drives them to play really hard. And for the most part, I think clubs that we compete against do a similarly good job of trying to get the best players and the best coaches and have the best environments for the clubs to play in. Look, I'll give you an example. Like before the Easter break, our 19s and 17s played in Brooklyn against FA Euro in a very small field. It was football lined. It was a high school field. Like
New Utrecht High School. I know it very well.
Exactly. So
yeah.
Look, some people would say, hey, like this isn't proper, but you know what? Like, why isn't it proper? Why?
Sure. You're forced to adjust. I mean, that's what the game is all about.
It'll be a little bit different game. We may have to adjust, but like the kids are learning how to deal with it. It is. Same thing when you go to Med Oval, like you have to adjust a little bit. Med Oval is super tight and they have it down to a science in how they play there, right? So, these little things like make you a better coach because you have to really think through, how do I combat what they do? How do I give them a problem? So in that process, you have to become a better coach.
So in your experience, do you find that most families choose environments by philosophy of a club? Because I think that's very rare. Or is it just, okay, my son or daughter made it into this, I'm just going to go here? Or do you find that parents ask you questions?
Oh God, that's a hard question. I think there's
Matt wrote it. So yeah,
there's all sorts of motivations behind decisions that folks make. And I haven't really inquired about why people choose New York Soccer Club. I only infer just based on some of the questions they ask. And look, at the end of the day, I think people, are driven to go to clubs because of what the club kind of stands for, right? Like, and the image and brand that they've developed over a period of time and what they see on the field. When we play against teams or, they come to one of our programs and how we handle ourselves in our programs, things of that nature, I think they make their decision on. And most of the time it starts off with a local group of people, right? And as they get older, that radius starts to get bigger because then, just it gets bigger and bigger and bigger as we get older, right? We had, kids coming from Long Island. We have kids come from Jersey, in the 19s, 17s, 16s. Mm-hmm. Whereas the younger kids is, mostly Southern Westchester kids, right?
I've asked a number of families who have moved to Westchester from New York City that I've known, how do you choose whether they're at New York Soccer Club, FC Westchester, or in some cases even Beachside, depending on where they live. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes it was where my kid gets in. Because all three are really competitive and right. They liked elements about all of them.
That's right. And that's kind of the market dynamic that we're in is that we do have a club that's literally a mile and a half from us. And it's a unique situation, right? Like not many clubs have a club like literally right next to them. So, kids, if they want to play at this level, okay, like if they don't make one of our teams, it's completely understandable that they want to have a go at the club next door or even down the road a little bit, right? Like that's completely understandable. And that's what MLS Homegrown has done now with the expansion they've done is a lot of options, right? And that's what I'm saying. A lot of kids playing at this level now, getting good coaching and developing at a good rate. So I think MLS Next has done a really good job of setting up an environment, a competitive environment that clubs want to be part of and the showcases. So in that respect, their marketing of the league has really led to more inclusion of urban clubs. They're really player focused with all their media. They highlight players all the time on Instagram and TikTok and things of that nature. So yeah, so that's, I think they're doing a really good job of like the league and kids wanting to be part of the league. And now with the inclusion of the academy division, it's done a really good job of kids wanting to be part of the second teams now and taking their chance of working their way up within a club as well. I just think that, when they added the competition for like the playoffs or the year-end event, that just, because back in the DA, they were all just glorified friendlies, right? And teams and players would play that way. And a lot of people criticized the DA because of that. Or they would set up competitions where only one team would qualify for playoffs. And like halfway through, like nobody had anything to play for anymore. Or, they wanted everybody to play kind of the same way, or you were criticized, or, if you didn't play on the ground, you were criticized. That's just not how football's played. I mean, like, there's just different ideas of how you can win games, right? So when MLS came in, MLS didn't have any mandates about, hey, you have to play this way, or you have to play this system, or they just said, this is the platform, this is the competition, and go, right? And so what I noticed was it just became instantly more competitive than the DA was. And that competition at this level drives people to be better, right? And investing more in scholarships, investing more in staff, investing more in technology. So all that drives, I think, better outcomes, in my view.
But there's a cynicism a little bit, and I don't know how deep we want to go into this, but terms like quality of play for a certain age group, which I know, I'm only speaking for the parent side. I know it's just enormous amount of confusion. And I see large quality disparity within the MLS Next systems as well. So you end up in a situation where games are pretty lopsided, and in many terms, and the good clubs are still the really good clubs, and I'm not sure how much is pushing the clubs underneath who still have that badge.
So look, I think there's always a question of where do you draw the line of quality control, right? I just try to do a really good job with my club. So now I know that may not always be the case, right? Because, like one of our teams may be a little bit weaker than the rest, or they're going through a bad moment, whatever it might be. But for the most part, our goal is to try to be as competitive as possible and win the day. Right. That's what drives us, is that like we want to compete at the highest level. We want to try to make playoffs. We want to try to make flex. Right. If one of my teams was an outlier, like one of our teams was not competing well, I have to look at everything that's going on in that team. Right. Is it the player pool? Is it the coaches? Like, have we had 5 guys ripped away from that team to MLS academies? Are we going through a transition period? Our 2009s, who are doing very well this year, they've lost 9 players to MLS academies. You lose 1, 2, 3 players, like good players, your team's going to look different. We've lost 9. And that team has gone through different cycles in how they perform and how they feel about the team, how they feel about the club. We lost some games. We lost some tough games. We lost some lopsided games during that period. But you know what? Because you have people like myself, we have other directors, we focused on it. We scouted, we recruited, we made the team better. We got a coach that motivated the group that was there. We promoted some kids from our second teams, and now they're going to flex. They're competing for a playoff spot. You have to look deeper sometimes, right? And sometimes when you get promoted into this thing, right, like an MLS academy, like you're a club outside, it takes a little bit of time to get the player pool that you need to compete at this level, or the coaches, or whatever it might be that's going on at any given club. And then the other aspect of quality of play, I don't think it's perfect. And they're using some sort of AI. I'm not sure, like if the coding, and I'm not sure what they place their emphasis on. For example, our 2013s, our U13, it's only lost twice, but they're like 4th or 5th. Yeah. And there's teams ahead of them that they beat and have better records than.
Absolutely.
So like, what weight are they putting on, right? So yeah, like, and like they play good football too. Like, so I don't know why the quality of play wouldn't be higher, right? So, but I don't focus on that kind of stuff because, they'll end up where they need to be, and they'll end up probably making the playoffs a top tier, and they'll compete very well, and it'll be fine.
How do you, given where your club is located in Westchester, generally speaking, a really affluent county, but with, as most of New York has, or all of New York has, socioeconomic dynamics, where you've got there's other communities that aren't nearly as affluent, and you've got a lot of immigrants. How do you think about it from a club perspective in ensuring that it's inclusive, thinking about scholarships, and the players in the community all come together as one?
Yeah. We put a huge emphasis on making sure that any kid that has the ability to make our team has the opportunity to do that. And we give away quite a bit of financial aid for our players to help them, to make it affordable. And some families, we go, above and beyond to help them travel and things of that nature. So yeah, we dedicate a lot of resources to that over the last, few years, or, we give financial aid up to the level of too much throughout the club.
And then do you offset that? I mean, we have this, you hear this all the time. We hear this often through direct messages or whatever it may be. America's broken, pay to play, blah, blah, blah. Like, we all understand it. It is what it is, but facilities cost a lot. Coaches have to be paid. These clubs aren't making the kind of money that everybody thinks that they're making, right? So we do our best to try to dispel some of that.
Yeah. So look, I have a take on that. It could take a whole podcast, but
let's try.
Very, very simple economics, right? Like from a club level, we have 3 buckets of revenue. We have member fees, we have training programs, and we have fundraising. Our expenses are probably like 200 lines.
Yeah.
We don't have a men's first team. We have no ability to sell players. If the pyramid here was promotion relegation, there'd be investors lining up, right, to buy players from us, right, to make their teams better so they can climb the leagues. But we don't have that, right?
Yeah.
Like our biggest expense is payroll, right, and field expenses. Those are the 2 big ones. And without either one of those, there's no program.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and club compensation obviously would really be a game changer.
We've talked often on this show about rockets, so players who just pop and stand out immediately. You've had some at New York Soccer Club who have gone on to have pro careers, whether it's James Sands or Gio Reyna. How quickly can you, as an academy director or coach, identify players like that? And how much of that is just natural ability with the mentality to do it versus truly development on the pitch?
It's all those things. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
What you see sometimes is the kid that's like I'll give you an example, like Dante Polvara came through our club and was rejected at NYCFC. He was rejected at other professional academies until U17 that City was like, yeah, I see it. And he went to City. He won a national championship with the U19s alongside like 6 other New York Soccer Club kids with Gio and James and Will. And James ended up going to Georgetown. And his senior year, he was the Mac Herman Award winner. And next thing you know, he's in Scotland, in the Premier League. So he ended up having a great stint at Aberdeen, won a Scottish Cup, and is now at St. Louis. All those guys, same team. Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about the girls' side of New York Soccer Club. Do you want to talk a little bit about that program? If things change as much as they have for the boys as far as, let's say, an MLS Next environment?
It has. As you know, the DA dissolved. And with that, there was a lot of uncertainty during COVID, right? Both on the boys' side and the girls' side. MLS came through on the boys' side, right? Like as an organization. And on the girls' side, the clubs had to do the heavy lifting and create an organization out of nothing and create a board, a nonprofit. And it was called the GA. And we were proudly in the middle of that, of establishing that league, right? Like we were definitely a founding member of that league, right? And very proud of the work that's gone on there. Our director, Carlos Mejia, has done an unbelievable job with getting the girls' teams to a level where they're competing, in the top third of every table, just about. And, they made Champions Cup this year for the first time. And that was a huge achievement for the club. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's, if all your teams achieve a certain amount of, in the top half of the table, your club goes to a Champions Cup tournament. And we were able to qualify for that tournament. And we were very proud of that. And in that process, they've really established, a way to identify girls for the next level, which is for college and for national teams. And, we've had great success in pushing kids on to, colleges of all divisions and national teams, both domestically and internationally.
In the scale of what you're running, is it realistic to have both elite programs running? I mean, is it just as far as field, staff, logistics? Is that something that's
what we
realistic?
do. That's we strive to compete at the highest level, right? That's what we have to do. And we strive for excellence, both on the boys and girls. We don't win every game. I wish we did. And match days are hard for me because it's very rare that we win 13s through 19s. And that, if we lose one game, it's still like we lost one game. God, I think about that, reflect, and, you just obsess about it. But, when you have heavy defeats, it's really hard, right? Like match days when you don't win a lot of games, it's, you really have to look inside and what's going on here, right? We take this hard because it's important to us.
So we're a month and a half out from the end of the 2025-2026 season. How do you evaluate success either at the team level, age group level, boys, girls, and then overall, what does that look like? You were talking about how you think about training from week to week. You're looking at results as part of that too. You're looking at player pathways. There's so much to look at, I guess. Focus on.
There is. And I think teams are in different places, right? We have teams that have been building for 2 and 3 years, and we keep adding to the player pool. We have a good coach and the expectations are high. Yeah, making playoffs is a realistic goal, right? And trying to do something in playoffs. And then there's other teams where, it'll be a different situation where we've lost 2 or 3 players to MLS academies, and we're trying to find the next players out that can help us compete at this level, and both on the boys and girls side, right? And so we look at each individual team as each an individual kind of silo of what's our goals with this team, right? But then you have club goals, right? Where it's are we winning more than losing? Our aim is to try to put on the best possible training environment, compete at the highest possible level, get results, play a good brand of soccer, right? And develop kids all at the same time.
I don't know if this is a rumor or true that parents are not allowed at training or anywhere near training.
So a lot of that is driven by facility rules.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on a campus of a college. And when we have 6 teams practicing at once, we take over the campus, right? So the college is, we have to be respectful of our agreement with the college. I know that some people drive from far away and they have nothing else to do, so they'll watch their kid or whatever. But I know that a lot of times that's not the motivation. A lot of times the motivation is because they want to know exactly what's going on in training, and that's not healthy for the player. I just think parents should just let soccer be soccer, and let them do their thing.
I think that's true. I also think that goes back to the earlier comments around clarity and communication. I think that as a parent, where I come from on this angle, you spend so much time, you invest a bunch of money. Your family life is oriented around soccer in a lot of cases if you're training 4 nights a week, but then there's not a whole lot of clarity or communication, whether it's with your player, your kid, or with you as a parent.
Sure.
And I think that actually drives quite a bit of that, as opposed to, I don't have anything else to do, I want to be there. Right.
Where our coaches are not clear in feedback is where problems start to fester. So I try to encourage all our coaches to be super clear about what's going on and what's necessary to fix it. And sometimes those fixes aren't overnight, so it's hard to accept as a family.
Sure.
If I say, hey, the physical profile, 1 year behind in your physical profile, there's nothing that player can do until that player changes, maybe grows or, maybe gets stronger. But that takes time.
How much has biobanding helped as far as that's concerned? And are you seeing it used?
Stories of biobanding.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, I think it's when used properly, it's a really fantastic thing. We don't take big kids and play them down for a competitive advantage. That's not what we do. And you can probably get away with it. And some clubs try and do, but that's not what we do. What we try to do is truly kids that, are good players, but need a little bit of time to either grow physically or need to become one of the better players on the younger team to, boost their confidence. And we've seen that work really well. And we've been pretty successful at it. And sometimes we miss, right? Sometimes it doesn't work, right? So that's been a really good division for kids that are really, really good players, but need a little time to physically develop as well.
I mean, it wouldn't be a Chasing the Game episode without talking about parents and pressure and parents' involvement. Region like New York, New Yorkers are demanding. We're spoiled for choices we covered here. Do you find that there is a certain quality of parent involvement and pressure within your club? And then how do you deal with it as an organization?
Look, I'm blessed. I don't have my phone ringing all the time about issues, right? Because we've kind of set the tone about correcting versus being critical. I think that's been a massive thing that we've changed. That's kind of probably slash 70% of calls regarding coach behavior, maybe more.
Incredible.
Right. And so what we spend our time doing is kind of counseling families on, hey, like, this is what's going on. Maybe this is why your player's not playing as much as you'd like. Or the conversation turns to, hey, if we think that your player would get more playing time, it'd be more beneficial for them to play on MLS2 or Aspire in the girls' case, right? So those are the type of conversations that we're having more than nobody's talking to us or like we're unhappy with A, B, and C. Now, my directors are more frontline. They may have a different take on it, but not so much. I'll be honest, because we meet all the time, and I hear the level of like what's going on a daily basis. Again, like I said, most of the things we talk about are more related to playing time and like where they're at in the team versus, hey, like this coach did this, and this to my son or daughter or whatever.
Can you give a concrete example what that switch made in a way? How was that report before you made the switch to what you call correction to what it is now?
It's about creating more confident players. Right? Like we had a summer where we really like reflected and said like, we're losing ourselves as coaches. We're letting our frustration get the better of us and our players aren't performing because of it. So we had to really take a hard look in the mirror, right? Including myself as the leader of the club and say, you know what, like I have to change and then everybody else is going to change. Right. So I went from like being like ultra intense, but at times negative, right? And letting frustrations at times get the better of me and saying, this isn't working anymore. Not in a like terrible way or like a negative way, but it was giving the green light to other coaches to maybe take it further than I was, let's just say, right? Coaches will feed off of the leader, right? So I knew that if we're going to make a change, it had to start with me. So that was the pivotal moment, right? And, in consultation with, our board, we talked a lot about it, like our chairman, Stefan Felgowitz, we talked about some of the things that we could change. And we, the root of it was building confidence in players. And it was good for us, right? And it's been good for us. And now the culture is correct before you critique. Just correct. Just stick to that. Stick to the facts and there'll be no trouble. That's been our approach and it's been really good for us.
Is there like a built-in hierarchy within the club for a parent to come with questions?
Yeah. So we have a management team, right? And the management team runs the club on a daily basis, right? And we meet a couple times a week and I'm the academy director. We have a boys director. We have a girls director. We have a zone 1 director, overall zone 1 director. Zone 1's like the young kids, U12 and under. And under the zone 1 director, we have a zone 1 boys assistant director, a zone 1 girls director. And then we have scouting and recruiting. And then we have finance within that, right? And then we have a board member that comes in and helps us as well and guide us. And so that's our management team and that's our hierarchy. So parents can reach out to any one of those people if they need to talk to somebody. Now, sometimes, they may not know, right? But they'll start with their coach or whatever, and then they'll go to their director if they're not getting satisfaction. But most of the time, it's a coach parent type of situation, if there's any concerns or whatever.
Great. I just wanted to shift gears a little bit to the college landscape and how you as a club, I'm sure as an academy director, you get pretty involved with college coaches, both on the boys and the girls side also. How is it evolving in this country as far as Division I soccer, Division III soccer, Division II, whatever it may be? And of your kids who come through the system, play with you through U19, how many of them are going on each year as a percentage to play in college at one of those levels?
So on the girls' side, the girls and boys are different, That's what I'll start off by saying. The girls have done a great job of placing all their players most consistently. I would say 90+% of the girls, most of the girls that want to play end up playing, let's just say, somewhere, whether that be a Division 1, 2, or 3 school, right? Depending on, making sure that their academic needs are matched with their sporting needs. On the boys' side, it's just changed so dramatically. COVID and the advent of the portal has really hurt incoming freshmen.
And we talk a lot about international too. Yep.
So it's absolutely killed the American freshman player. So what a lot of players have to do is start somewhere, maybe somewhere where they'd be overqualified for in the past, maybe, just because there's so many more players, right? There's just too many players at the moment in the system. And then they have to do well there and then look to transfer. Now, we did a really good job last year of placing most of our players that wanted to go and play college. This year, we've had a little bit of a drop off, but that's because some kids aren't academically qualified, or there's just a variety of reasons why kids don't go play college. But we had our fair share of kids that we placed this year.
Does something need, as far as the international players coming in? I mean, one, we're creating a much more competitive environment in colleges, which is great. Hopefully they'll change the season and have it actually reflect a proper season as opposed to 2.5 months in the fall, which is insane that it still exists that way. But do they need, what's your feeling on, or do they need to create some sort of cap around international players coming into U.S. universities to help with the American player continued development?
Oh, goodness. I don't know if a cap's the right thing to do. I hate putting restrictions on player movement, things like that.
Yeah.
But, I just think from a university philosophical standpoint, right? I think universities should really look in the mirror and say, what are we doing? What's our mission? Is our mission to educate American kids or the world, right? And same goes for their athletic programs. What are we here to do? And listen, it's one thing to recruit a couple of players from abroad, but when I hear you have 25 players from abroad, I think that's a lot. There's a lot of players here. Why are we doing that?
We had on an assistant coach from a top 20 Division I school a few weeks ago, Tom Bowen, who's the Long Island Soccer Club Academy director. And, before we got on the pod, we were scrolling through his roster, and the first 10 players alphabetically were from abroad. And, look, I thought his explanation was pretty solid, which is, one, not every kid wants to come to Hofstra, that we would love to come to Hofstra. So in some cases, we're forced to go international or to the portal for sure, which is a whole other story. He said the other thing is we've got a center back who's 25 years old who played 100 games in Serie C in Italy. Why are we saying no to that? Yeah. Right? He's a proven commodity who's going to change the impact of our team.
So that's exactly the change. And players that are is it a league for 18 to 22-year-olds, or is it, does it matter how old people are? The NCAA has to answer all these questions, and the whole transferring so easily is really, really bad.
I think so too. Tough to build it. Tough to build a team with continuity and actually focus on developing and winning. In year to year, it changes. 70% of your team turns over.
Yeah, really difficult.
Do you have obviously you guys are so knowledgeable. Do you have a kind of school counselor, but do you have a place within the team so parents and families can consult internally and to help guide families?
Yeah, we have somebody that within the club on the boys and girls side that helps coordinate, gives information, prepares the families for the recruiting process, is there to answer questions. At times, talks to coaches on their behalf to say, hey, they're interested in your school. It's an interesting, the whole college recruiting process is so misunderstood, from parents. And they think that directors, coaches can pick up the phone and call one of their friends and just place kids. That's just not how it works, and the coaches have to see it for themselves, right? If the college coach has to see the benefit of that player, or else it's never going to work.
Yeah. Even if they've got a job, they've got to win, right? The development goes by the wayside in college, and your job is to win.
Yeah. So there's a lot of services that have popped up. There's a lot of, there's just a misconception amongst families that say, if you're well connected, that's all that needs to happen is the coach just needs to make a call. That's not the case. The recruiting process is dynamic. It's multifaceted. It's, it's a process that kids have to go through and take the appropriate steps and market themselves, really.
What do you think about the talent IDs? There seem to be thousands of them, and in different varieties. Where are kids? Are kids getting? Yeah, for colleges, are kids getting? Are they beneficial? I mean, they're different. I'm sure some are more beneficial than others. How much of it is being ID'd at Next Fest, for example, versus their ongoing? Like, what does it look like?
So I can only give you my take on it, and just from watching what goes on, right? What I notice where it goes wrong is like kids, they'll never have a chance. Let's say we have a kid on our 17s or 19s that's like a good player, but like is not ready for Indiana, let's say. And he'll go to Indiana for their camp. There's just no chance that player is being recruited by him. And I know it. And I don't want to say anything because it's like, just because I don't want to say like you're wasting your money, but wasting his money because they've already recruited somebody, or they already have somebody, and if you haven't already been contacted by them, or you're not in the youth national teams, like it's going to be hard for you. A lot of times their sporting ambition doesn't match their ability. And they might be good players. They might be good enough to play, but the coach isn't coming to watch.
Right.
Or they may just be dismissive right away. So
Matt, what a future awaits us in Chasing the Game season 6, 7, and 8. Director, I want to thank you for your time. I know you're incredibly busy. Sunday for you is a full work day. I could hear the pings on the phone nonstop. And this is I give us a badge of honor that we've managed to complete this interview without talking about supplementary training. So a massive success for us.
Those guys.
Those guys. This is how actually we're gonna end the interview saying those guys.
It's if there wasn't Instagram, there wouldn't be those guys.
There wouldn't be those guys. I mean, we're all so baffled. Trust me. Every episode, we just learn more and more. But you guys are doing incredible work. And I just want to throw a huge shout out to Coach JP, which I know is one of your coaches, Christopher Morataya. Yeah, and one of your kids, Lincoln Kai Morataya, his dad arranged this interview for us. So, and he's a big fan of the pod.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
I want to say wow, but I'm a little nervous that Director Gonzalez is going to correct me on how to say it. So I'm just not going to do that now. This conversation takes me back to one word, and it's not wow. It's clarity, not branding, not some broad language, clarity. At one point, Christian says, we strive for clarity. I can't stress that enough. It's the only way kids learn and develop, by having clear messages. Then he adds to that, if you have a lot of general practice, you're going to get a lot of general outcomes. That really gets to the heart of what families are trying to figure out.
And for me, the other line that really matters is correcting versus being critical. That one principle has changed everything for us, because that is not some small wording change. That is culture. That is coach behavior. That is player confidence. That is whether feedback actually helps a kid improve or slowly shuts them down. And when he connects that to the fact that it's /70% of calls regarding coach behavior, you realize this stuff is not abstract. It changes the experience for players, coaches, and parents.
Yeah, and I think this is why this episode matters beyond one club, as you and I have discussed, because families have to make decisions for all kinds of reasons. We talked about geography, level of play, opportunity, and where their kid fits in. But underneath all of it, the deeper question is still the same. Is this environment clear? How's the communication? Is it thoughtful? Is it helping my child improve? Or is it just saying the right things?
If you enjoyed this one, send it to another soccer parent, coach, or club leader who thinks seriously about player development and club culture. And if this brought up something you've experienced in your own club environment, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and if by now you haven't sent it to people you know or care about, then you know what? Still do it. Please.
Shame.
Yeah,
Shame.
no, but still do it. I'm sorry. I apologize. Still do it. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for sharing the show. And thanks for chasing the game with us. Bye, Matt.
Bye, Laurent.